Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are talking about perfectionism and how it can be so sneaky. So sneaky.
Yes. Welcome to the Shift Happens podcast about navigating the lighter side of life's challenges.
I'm Robin McIntire, a life and transitions coach.
And I'm Monique Eckes, the question asker, posing as the audience, like you, asking questions.
Mm-hmm. We want to know all your questions.
Yes, I'm a naturally curious person, so this is all very intriguing and insightful for me. So I love this role.
It's been a great fit. And you keep me reined in. And this topic today...
It's big.
Yeah, I had to tell Monique, rein me in more than normal.
Okay.
Okay.
Because we have touched on this throughout the episodes about perfectionism, and we decided we just really have to do a whole episode about it, but we're going to do the condensed one because we'll talk about this over time, you know. But we're going to give the basics of it, because when you say procrastinate, or not, perfectionism, sorry, did I say procrastination?
It can be the same thing.
Okay. Perfectionism can be sneaky. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure, because I have never really labeled myself as perfectionist. So what do you mean by sneaky perfectionism?
Well, several things. Being a perfectionist, some people I'm a perfectionist. I used to be very proud of that.
Oh, okay.
Until my therapist set me straight. That's a story I'll tell here in a second. But there are people who are perfectionists in some areas of their life and maybe not others. Mm. And then there's people that really don't even know they're perfectionists. Mm-hmm. And we have made that, at least for me, I had made that kind of a dirty word.
Right.
And there is nothing wrong with it. There's just different ways to look at it. And this little book that I will say some more about later just blew it wide open for me. Years after I was starting to label myself as the recovering perfectionist and being very proud of that.
Yeah.
So this book kind of just blew me out of the water, and that's why we're not going to get extensive today, because I will give you this title and it's just loaded. So
yeah. So you had always seen yourself as a perfectionist. Mm-hmm. So the sneaky part probably pertains more to me.
It could.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really curious about this. I always have known, when you know a perfectionist, you know a perfectionist, right? But I hadn't thought about it being different aspects of your life potentially, and where it can be sneaky. So we've got some nuggets for you too, to see if that's one of the things that you could work on.
Yeah.
That you don't know.
Yes.
Like all these blind spots that we talked to Robin about. So tell a little bit more about your story with becoming a recovering perfectionist.
So this is really short and sweet, and it's pretty in my face. It was in my face. It might sound in your face. And to be honest, I'm not sure if I added tone to this or if my therapist actually said it to me in this way.
Okay.
But the way I received it sounds kind of brutal, like, was that right of her to do that? But then I'm thinking it made a difference for myself and my family, so I was all in.
Okay.
She literally, whatever I was talking about at the time, she said, "So, Robin, how do you think that is for your husband and your boys, that you think you should be perfect and probably think they should be perfect?" Ouch. Yeah, it was like a 2x4. Uh-huh. And that was the first, am I turning red? I feel like I'm turning red. I mean, I'm reliving that. I felt that in my body. When she said that, I felt that in my body, and I just felt it again. Oh. And it's just so crazy, because when we have expectations of ourselves or others or life, that everything should be perfect, we set ourselves up for so much disappointment and judgment. Mm. And then on top of the judgment of ourselves and others, we've got we might not even know the guilt that we feel for being so judgy.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Okay. And that's been a journey for me.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. So the therapy, right? So the therapist saying that 2x4.
Yes.
Okay.
And here I blamed everything on Mark. It was all everything was his fault.
Oh my God.
So it was really a great way for me to start taking more responsibility for my part in all relationships.
Yeah.
How I show up.
All right. So then, though, later you found another resource here.
All these years later, like this book, I read this last year. Maybe not even a whole year ago. Yeah, it's that fresh.
Okay.
This was okay, should I tell them the name?
Yes, okay, we're going to reveal the name.
Okay, we're going to reveal the name. The Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control.
Ooh.
And Catherine Morgan, I think it's Schaeffler, it might be Schaffler, I don't know. Therapist, she's obviously, this is brilliant, brilliant. And what she does, if you're interested, she has a quiz you can take.
Oh.
What kind of, which which perfectionist are you? She says there's 5 types.
Okay.
So this is where a sneaky part comes in too,
Okay.
right? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, one of them is called messy. How could a perfectionist be messy, right? Doesn't that make you curious?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But I want to also show you real quick, if you can see this, the dog ears. Is that what you call it when you turn the
I think
pages,
so.
right? Yeah. And I mean, I have got notes throughout this book, and I'm going to reread it because just bringing this topic to the podcast made me bring this out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot how great this really even is.
Nice.
So, yeah. Okay, so the 5 types, I have to lean a little to see our little notes. Procrastinator, the procrastinating perfectionist, the classic perfectionist, the intense perfectionist, the Parisian perfectionist, and as I mentioned before, the messy perfectionist.
Interesting.
So doesn't that sound sneaky already?
I guess so. Yeah, yeah. So we wrote down like some disadvantages, and I think this is also kind of where the sneaky part comes in maybe for me, is you had said, and you can take over from here, I keep mixing up perfectionist and procrastinator.
Yeah, they do go well together, I promise.
Okay,
You didn't mix it up really.
But like, this is a big part of the negativity of thinking perfectionist. You know, when I look at someone like, oh, they're a perfectionist, there's some judginess in there.
Yep.
But we also judge ourselves.
Yep.
And you say the disadvantage is that control.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
very, very got to have control. If we're out of control,
Okay.
we're not being perfect. We can't make something perfect. It has a lot to do with control. And I want to preface this too by saying anything that we have as an adult, it is highly likely that it is attached to our inner child somewhere.
Okay.
Just to be really fair and safe, and that's complicated, and I'm not one to speak in detail about that because I'm not qualified to really do that.
Okay.
But I know from the work I've done and the study that I do on it, so much of who we are today, just like the compassion and the sunglasses, the road rage podcast that we did that really had more to do with seeing people and how they view the world. It has to do with where we've been, what we've been through, and what our beliefs are, and that is all wrapped up in this too.
Okay, yeah, so
Yeah.
kind of a core piece of what you teach.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
So control is one of those.
Yep.
And then you had said momentum killer.
Yeah.
When we were talking. So
That really rolls into the biggest, most obvious part of how perfection can get in our way. And what it
Okay.
is when we are thinking everything has to be perfect, it's pretty black and white, right? I'm good or I'm bad. My work
Okay.
is good or bad. I ate good or bad,
right.
right? And it's in a lot of perfectionists, I mean, this was me for sure. I've had to work on it, but if I didn't do the whole thing or I didn't do it perfect, I take no credit. And we go right into punishment. Now, punishment can be a lot of things, but it can just be mental. Here comes the inner critic.
Okay.
Okay, so any momentum, we can't get any momentum because it's never good enough. As to where when we can not be quite so critical and say, well, I didn't hit the mark, but I'm going to stop and I'm going to give myself credit for improving this, this, and this.
Right.
That leaves you with some momentum to build on and keep going.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's one of the sneaky signs that maybe you have perfectionism in there somewhere.
Yes.
Right? And I could totally see that with myself, especially when I'm about to maybe launch a new product in my business.
launch is
I got to make
guilty.
every T is crossed, I is dotted, what were the possible outcomes, how I don't want anyone to think that I don't have it together.
Yeah.
So
FOPO, right?
a little
Fear
bit
of other
FOPO.
people's opinion is really big for, yes,
All the
perfectionists.
details in there. And then sometimes those projects don't ever make it off the ground.
Yeah.
You know?
I have evidence, I've shown you part of it. So many things that I created and never launched.
Yeah.
And that's tough to look at too. And some of it really was true distractions, or I never had the whole thought together.
Yeah.
But when I get really, really honest, has so much to do with not being good enough.
Yeah.
And what about getting ready to get ready?
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I always give these business examples. I mean,
we're talking to a lot of women in business, for sure.
So a lot of my takeaways from this come back to some of the business things I do. So I coach other photographers, and I tell you that getting ready to get ready could take years, years till they put out a shingle for their own business. So if they come to me and they say, I want to be a photographer, and so we go through all the things to set up, but they'll take forever.
Yeah.
And forever. Like, oh, well, I got to have the contract exactly right. I got to have all my price lists to the detail. Everything and that takes so much longer than it needs to. That getting ready to get ready.
Yeah. It's such a big
just
sign.
never gets off the ground.
Yeah.
And it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah. That's so true, because it is. It's about, it really so much comes down to, it's not good enough, I'm not good enough.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And it's hard to admit that. That still comes up for me. I wanted to do a podcast for a long time, and it wasn't that I thought I couldn't do it, but it just kept living out there somewhere.
Right.
But if I got really honest, never being ready is a sign. Not that you want to take on everything at once or take on too many. I've learned that too. Like, the other thing perfectionists do is we make lists this long and expect ourselves to check them all off.
In 5 minutes.
Yeah. And then we go through all the disappointment. It's like, well, maybe you could revise that in the first place.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. And then we can't take credit for it because I see it all.
I didn't check off
back.
all the boxes.
Wow. Okay. I never thought of perfectionism as a worthiness issue.
Yeah. Oh. Oh
my God.
I told you it goes back to some inner child stuff for sure.
Goosebumps right here.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about this part before we recorded, and I can't believe that. Wow, that's hitting me like a 2x4.
Yeah, and I could in another podcast too share if some of you that know me know my story that my mother died young, and I could go a little more into how I think that affected me.
Yeah.
Trying to make people around me more comfortable, taking on that role that no one asked me to take on, and make everybody okay. Become the people pleaser. Don't make a ruckus. Don't rock the boat. All the things. And so we, like I said, we can start so young.
Oh my gosh.
With that thing.
Right, because it probably felt out of control for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then if you could come in there and make it seem in control.
Yep.
Right.
So
but
true.
Then being in control kind of gets out of control.
Yeah. Well, and then followed by later years, just to dump a whole bunch on you. If I'm brand new to you, please forgive me. But just like the bulimia in high school.
Yeah.
That's a total control thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I look back on and going, that is the one thing I felt like I was pretty out of control.
Yeah.
Lots of things were out of control.
Okay.
So I have heard that that's part of that, but part of perfection too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
Can't claim to be an eating disorder specialist other than the experience I had.
Right.
But so much perfection growing up.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to back up 1 second.
Okay.
So we talked about the relabeling. I think I don't know if we actually said that, but our goal is to relabel perfectionist and perfectionism, right? So we don't want to make us wrong.
Right. Okay.
And this applies to women who are striving. People around us that are like, why do you have so many goals? Or why can't you just relax? Or this book is so good for us that have felt like something's wrong with us because we have this inner drive that some people don't experience. And we do come across uptight, and but it's really, this whole perfection thing comes down to what she labels adaptive perfectionism and maladaptive. Okay. So AKA healthy perfectionism versus unhealthy / problematic.
All right.
Okay. And the problematic side really does come down to, if we aren't good enough, we punish ourselves.
Yeah.
Again, can be the inner critic. It could be literally physically sabotaging yourself or hurting yourself or setting yourself up for failure on purpose. It's still subconscious.
Sure.
But yeah, I think you asked me something and I was going off. Surprise!
Well, what are some other sneaky signs, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of leads to shame.
Oh, absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And we don't ask for help.
Don't ask for help is another one. And I still find myself doing that.
Me too.
And I've had clients that when they finally pick up the phone or reach out, there is, I don't know if shame's I don't want to put words in their mouth, but it can be, I should be able to figure this out on my own. And so between that and have a hard time being vulnerable, admitting that something doesn't feel right and I would like support with that, I think that holds back a lot of people from picking up the phone.
Right.
Because I'm not scary.
No, not at all.
But I do. I think whenever we're talking about life stuff or things that are hard or something we're struggling with, I think perfectionists especially just have it at a higher level of guilt or shame or I should know this, or I shouldn't have to pay to have help, or whatever it is. There's something in there that says, I don't want to ask for help.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up because that's so true.
So then you said maladaptive, which we've been talking most about, the unhealthy part of perfectionism. So let's flip it over and see what the adaptive looks like.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to maladaptive just for a second. That is when we're so afraid to lose that we are striving from fear of losing.
Okay.
That made me think of rocking chair moments where I'm afraid of regret. So that was interesting for me to take in as well.
Okay.
But the healthier side is we're striving to win. To feel better, to reach the goal, because our heart and our soul says, I want to go do this.
Okay.
Or I want to help people. Whatever our big why is, that comes more from a place of like, oh my gosh, I am so excited to do this. And I know I can. I might have to, grow my skill set or my mindset, or what was the third one Sandra said?
Tool set.
Tool set. Yeah. So those things that we have to grow should feel exciting, not, oh my God, if I don't do this, I'm going to die.
Gotcha.
So
that's really interesting. Can I pause you for a second?
Please.
Because I do have outsiders that will look at me and say, you're doing too many things. And I'm like, but they all light me up.
Yes.
So I don't feel like I'm like going towards something I really want.
Yeah.
And they see it as me just trying to do too many things. Yeah. So this is a good way to have that conversation with someone too. When you get over to that adaptive side and you're like, hey, actually, no, this isn't on the maladaptive. This is good for me.
Yeah, it's healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is that takes me back to Monique, that is what she is saying. She's giving you permission to still be that striver.
Okay.
And don't shut yourself down, and don't change who you are, and don't listen to people that tell you you're doing too much.
Okay.
Except your coach if she says no. Just kidding. Gotta sleep. But that's what's so cool about this is she's flipping that on its head, and she's saying, again, watch what your motivations are.
Okay.
If it's coming from, and maybe this is why this is so surprising to you, maybe yours is not coming from, and I don't believe it is really, the worthiness piece. That was probably shocking to you, because now that I think about it, that's not really where you come from.
But it has been.
Yeah, we've talked about that too, where it's if I'm not producing, I'm not worthy of rest, or I'm not worthy of taking a break.
Yeah, or I can't possibly teach this.
Yeah, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
A more adaptive.
Love and self-compassion.
Compassion.
Self-love and self-compassion.
Oh, that feels so much better.
Doesn't it? And it was so confirming for me to read this, because I know I've been on this rant for a while. And I went when I went to, from perfectionist, I went kind of way over to a little too much grace, so I had to kind of bring it back. But this was so confirming, because I know for a fact from my own experience that being my own best friend has so served me, instead of just knocking myself down over and over and over. And again, you can't get any momentum. If you're locking arms with that better side of yourself and the part of yourself that appreciates you, I mean, it's like having two for the price of one that are going for the goal.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know we can talk way more about this. Okay. And we do have a little bit more.
Yeah.
But we do need to take a sponsor break.
Yes.
So we're going to do a sponsor break before we give you some practical tips and her famous one-liner.
Not always mine, but...
So sponsor, take it away.
Yes. So I want to talk to you about my Spark Plus session. This can be for absolutely anything. Perfectionism is a great topic. If you relate to this today and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I could dive into this, it would help me change my life, I am here to help you change whatever it is that is tapping you on the shoulder. So this Spark Session Plus, it's a quick start. It's a way for you to check into support with me, what it would be like to be coaching with me, 90-minute initial session, and then 2 weeks later we get together for 30 to 45 minutes. This is all via Zoom, and we sort some things out and get you on your way.
Nice.
Yeah, it is a blast. You have to be brave.
You do have to be brave.
You have to be brave.
And curious.
Yep, and curious.
Yes.
Yeah. I really want to help you just bring your courage, because it does. It's just like ripping off the Band-Aid's the hard part, which is really making the decision to say, okay, I'm going to peak.
Right.
It's like layers of the onion, right?
Right. So like when I hired you.
Yes.
And I messaged her and I said, I want to sign up right now before I lose my nerve.
You did.
And that was the Band-Aid for me.
Yes.
And then just, okay, show up.
Yep.
And here we are.
And how was it when I called you?
It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like it wasn't scary.
Right.
It wasn't scary. It was like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah. And I love that you did that when that's that 20 seconds of courage.
Ah.
Have you heard that before? 20 seconds of courage? Like what could you do right now that could change something for you?
Oh, wow.
That was your 20 seconds of courage.
Ooh.
Was the text. Because
Right.
then you put it in my core, the ball in my core.
Like,
so
oh,
you
I
locked
can't
yourself in
untext
a
it.
little. But she wasn't locked in ever. Just so you know.
I know. All right. Well, thank you, sponsor.
Thank you.
We have links everywhere for the Spark Session Plus.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into what's your famous one-liner for today.
And I can't claim this as my own, as many of these. They're ones that have made a difference for me.
But we wanted to stick in their head.
Yes,
So,
this is to stick in your head.
Yeah.
And you've probably heard it. Progress, not perfection.
Mm-hmm.
That just reminds you to, and that comes right into the other one-liner I use all the time, is just keep showing up.
okay.
So it's about momentum. It is about keep your momentum. Don't throw in the towel, which is what we like to do if we don't do
Yeah.
it perfect.
Okay. Okay. Progress, not perfection.
Yep.
All right. So what's something tangible that we can go home today and do?
Here's what I would love to see you all do, especially if you feel like you don't give yourself credit.
Yes.
If this black and white thinking and all or nothing comes true for you, if it is true for you, I want you to pick out at least 3 small wins every day this week and write them down, and then extra credit is to bring this question to the dinner table. Even if it's just you and your spouse or you and your partner or whatever, just come and say, hey, what if we practiced at the end of each day coming together and sharing our wins? Because this can make you very aware, and believe me, if you're not used to doing this, you're gonna go, I didn't do anything good today. Or nothing was, because you think nothing's good enough to bring to the table.
Yeah, and I think the power of this small thing is that people will then start looking through it throughout their day, and you will.
Yeah, you will.
You will start looking for that. Oh, that's one of the 3 things.
Yes.
That I can bring.
Yes.
and it can be small things.
You're giving your brain a job,
Yes.
and it goes looking, and it's
In the background, yes.
And that's why every coaching session, we start with wins. So
Yes.
every week, my
Love that.
clients are looking for their good stuff because they want to come to the call excited.
Oh my gosh! And you're going to find that you have more than 3.
Yeah, that's
At
the best
some
part.
point, you'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, but I guess this also, and this also.
Yeah.
And it's a really great way to close out the day.
Yep.
And the podcast.
Except I have one more thing.
Okay,
It's an
one more thing.
It's an example.
Okay, good.
Okay, so let's say that, and this might sound really silly, but some people avoid going to the doctor.
Oh, okay.
Right, getting their blood work done, doing your mammo, your whatever check you need to do, or the dentist, or I've been meaning to join the gym and I haven't. A win can be I picked up the phone and made the call.
Yes.
Just like what you did.
Yeah.
That is a huge win. Now, next week, the win's going to be going show up to,
Yes.
to go do it, right?
Yeah,
But
for sure.
and it could be, I got ready for bed by 9 o'clock because I promised myself I was going to be in bed by 10. It can be the littlest thing. What did you do different today that you promised yourself that put you towards your goal, like helped you move the needle?
Nice. With all of that said, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And remember, shift happens.
Shift happens.
And sometimes
always.
we want it to.
That's
Yeah,
true.
That's right.
Yeah, when we're talking about a true shift and not shift happens, we want a good one.
And all of those things Robin can help you with.
I can help you with
so
that.
tell us where your website is.
You can find me at robinmcintire.com, spelled with all I's, ROBINMCINTIRE.
Yay! And of course, all kinds of information is on the show notes, whatever.
Freebies from the past.
Wherever you're listening. So it's on your audio podcast and on YouTube.
Yep.
So great to see you today.
Great to see you. Please like and share.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Ciao.